Okay, we're live now. So, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to have everybody on as part of our series of the International Youth Day event themed Defiance. And we have chosen that theme because we expect to motivate young people to defy all the odds stacked up against them in Nigeria and broadly in Africa to ultimately succeed in all of their endeavor. We've been quite privileged over the past few days to have, very, very cerebral and senior people speak with us over the last couple of days. We've had the Minister of Sport, we've had the former Commissioner of Education, we've had a former bank chief, and today we're lucky to have Miss Damilola Ogumbi, who is a special representative for the United Nations Secretary General for Sustainable Energy. It's a real pleasure to have her on, and she'll be speaking about largely the global trends that will be shaping opportunities for young people in the nearest future. So, Ms. Ogumbi, thank you for joining us to speak with young people on this eventful location, and I'm sure that a lot of us are going to learn from your insights. So thank you once again, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much for having me. I always like the opportunity to speak to young people, especially young Nigerians, about just how much opportunity there is in the clean energy space. So initially, I was going to do a presentation, but we're having some technical issues. So please bear with me. I'm now going to kind of just go through what I was going to discuss with you. So it's really important that my key focus is universal access for all. And what that really means is Sustainable Development Goal 7, which is a commitment globally by governments to deliver clean, modern, sustainable energy for everybody. How does that relate to Africa? Africa still has a population of 565 million that don't have access to energy. And there's a bit of a revolution on how to make sure that the population that don't have access can have access using a clean, modern way. It's really important to note that the COVID pandemic has also clearly shown us why energy access is critical. Quite simply, energy access saves lives. People across Nigeria cannot socially distance if they don't have access to electricity and clean cooking fuels. That is why it's really important that we get to a point of universal access. Yet, also in the COVID recovery, it presents us an opportunity to recover better and to recover better with sustainable energy. Just before we actually got on the call, one of the young ladies that I had trained at Unilag had just got a scholarship or really a grant from Rockefeller of $10,000 to set up her own kind of clean energy company. This is what we mean by the opportunities that can face young people. Nigeria has a population of over 96 million people. And for Nigeria alone, it's estimated that 85 million people do not have access to sustainable electricity and also don't have access to clean cooking. So while it looks much better on the presentation for us to go on about, just what the opportunities are. So I'm just going to touch on a little bit because I think it's actually more important now to get your questions and for me to answer that than for me to go on about sustainable energy. So in terms of young people, we see kind of like the fourth industrial revolution being in IT. And it's important that you have the sustainable energy to power a lot of these tech hubs and a lot of these apps that the young people in Nigeria are actually doing right now. In SE4O, we've probably hired about 4 or 5 young people across the continent. Ugo, who's on the line somewhere, is my 27-year-old special assistant and basically helps me drive the way I think. So it's really important for anybody now that is in a role of leadership, at least globally and within a national or state government, having young people as part of their team is really critical. I will give you a personal story in terms of my history. I started up in government in Lagos State quite young, and I also headed an agency in Lagos State by the age of 30. So it's not like the opportunities are not there. It's important to fight for the opportunities and realizing that you have to work a lot harder. It's also important in terms of prioritizing the right type of education, regardless of what you studied. It is really, really critical that you look at, if you are interested in the energy access space or the energy transition space, online courses that will make sure that gives you a firm delivery to actually utilize what you do. So these are things from, solar training to wind. These are courses that you can do regardless of whatever degrees you came up with. And it's really, really important to also encourage, I always encourage young people to not shy away from an opportunity in government once given, because it's really important to have more young people in government to really, really shape the conversation. So, like I said, I really had this really nice presentation for you guys, which can't come up now, but really, really look forward for you guys asking questions. I'm constantly inspired by the innovation, commitment, and drive of young leaders in Nigeria. I think it defined my career, and I just look forward to answering your questions and using and really hope you guys use every opportunity you have to make your voice heard to shape your future. Back to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So I think I'd open the floor with the questions. Firstly, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics have released some very depressing numbers of unemployment, underemployment, and poverty in Nigeria. It does look like the country is not creating enough jobs, or it does look like the population is swallowing the amount of jobs being created. Um, Whether it is either or, the reality is that you have more unemployed young people and you have a lot more people falling below the poverty line. The first question I'd like to ask is, how do young people plug themselves into a global system, especially at a time where the power of the dollar or the power of the naira seems to be falling dramatically? I think the dollar is exchanging for over 470 naira as we speak. And then young people, the purchasing power of young people have completely been eroded. So how do young people plug themselves into a global system where they can earn in hard currencies, so that they can also maintain a certain standard of living going forward and not fall absolutely below the poverty line in Nigeria?
Okay, I don't know if I can answer how you plug into a global system. I only started earning foreign exchange 6 months ago at over age 40. So I think it's more important how they get sustainable jobs, right? I think this depressing trend is not just a Nigerian problem. It's happening all around the world right now in terms of high unemployment figures. I think we should note that. However, talking about just how we kind of get out of this situation, I'm not sure if you know about the new sustainability plan the Nigerian government has come out with. I can speak to the part on clean energy, which is to connect 5 million households to clean energy. To connect 5 million households to clean energy means connecting 25 million people. That means 250,000 jobs can be created just for that. So what I would advise is that when young people are looking for work or looking for employment, trying to get outside their comfort zone and not just focus on what they studied as a degree. And I also think they just need to be trained, and they also need to sacrifice as well. When I went to government, it didn't pay very well. It was almost like an internship, and I grew to where I had to grow. So you're not going to get to a point where you get your first job or your second job earning what you want. That doesn't happen in real life. You need to prove yourself. And I'm sure when you prove yourself, when your commitment, you will get to this point. But like I said, I've worked on a localized level for many years before I got to this platform. So if you're obsessed with having to work internationally, then you can look at a lot of the embassies and a lot of the foreign offices and the way things go. But I don't know if that's the answer. I think the focus is to try and develop your own economy and localization is key. As we're seeing, we're all connected by this horrible pandemic, and it's important that we sort out what's happening in our country. And I think young people, in terms of IT, in terms of clean energy, in terms of technicians, in terms of engineers, play a very, very key role in Africa as a whole.
Okay, I think, Bolahon, can you hear me? You have a question to ask Ms. Ogumbi. You're live now.
Yes, I have a question. I don't know if you can hear me too.
Yes, I think she can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a bit concerned about the balance of clean energy vis-a-vis the fossil fuel powered energy I don't know how to put this, where we have a very serious deficit of power, of energy. Electricity, our electricity need is so huge vis-a-vis what we currently have on the ground. Is clean energy actually the pathway to getting to where we need to get to? As in, how can we ramp up? Or what is the role of clean energy in taking us quickly to where we need to be? Because if you ask me now, as someone who doesn't understand that space that much, I would say we should actually focus on fossil energy, because that will take us faster to where we need to be, rather than the clean energy part of it. So I just wanted to educate me a little bit more on the role of clean energy in taking us to power sufficiency.
Okay, so first, fossil fuel doesn't take you any faster. I think that's a misconception. And nobody's saying that you should stop using fossil. I mean, in this case, we're probably talking about gas. Luckily, Nigeria doesn't use coal or any of the dirtier fuels in terms of their grid supply. Energy access, and the people who really don't have energy, not the people who lack energy or have blackouts, there are about 565 million people, and the level of energy that they need can be sufficed using solar energy. It's actually the least cost way to do it. And where you don't have that much money, then you look at least cost solutions that are sustainable as well. So those are the type of things you have to look at. In terms of the grid supply, which we're not saying that it's bad, by the way, there are different elements. There's generation, then there's transmission, then there's distribution, and then there's the last mile. There are issues with that entire value chain. What we're trying to say is that clean energy and decentralized energy is actually probably the cheapest form of energy to connect the 85 million people in Nigeria that don't have electricity. And it is also sustainable and clean. So we do have to think of our environment, and we do have to think about climate. As young people, there should be a responsibility about climate now. It shouldn't just power with anything. And then we develop what is happening in the global north, where the issues they're having with climate are affecting us in Nigeria with the rainfalls, with the thunderstorms, and all these other issues. So we do have a responsibility to think about climate and energy in the same mind. And to be honest, it's fossil fuel doesn't actually happen any faster. I think that's a misconception. And it's also important that while no one's saying get rid of, gas-based solutions, we're trying to say that we have to encourage renewable solutions at the same time, because we have so much good sunlight and hydro as well. Back to you.
Okay, so I'm seeing a question here on the platform, and it reads: what kind of skills will young people need to acquire to accelerate their climb in the ladder of life? What kind of skills do young people need to acquire to accelerate their climb? I'm guessing what the person is trying to ask is what skills should young people have, fresh out of school or joining the job market today, that will make them
So, yeah,
competitive in the short to long term?
I think communication skills are always very, very critical, and writing as well. I mean, I've had to work with hundreds, maybe thousands of young people, and the writing skills are really, really important. Be able to write a report, be able to develop those skills. We're now in the age of PowerPoint, right? I'm dyslexic, so I work in pictures, and that's why I wanted to do a presentation today. So knowing my dyslexia, knowing that I have issues with that, I look for a medium that I'm good at. And what I'm good at is visualizing things, taking a 100-page report and summarizing it to 5 slides. That's how the world is going, 60-second videos instead of, 10-minute documentaries. So you have to be able to move at that pace and understand those skill sets. And you also have to just be in tune with everything going on. It doesn't stop with your degree. It actually starts with your after your degree, all the learning you have to do. But take up opportunities, take up internships, even if they're not paid. So you gain the experience. So because the better your CV, the more people will give you opportunities.
Okay, fantastic. Let me try and read another question. Okay, someone is saying, what kind of education, what kind of professional education would you advise that young people acquire? Um, what kind of professional education would you advise young people to acquire going forward?
I can only speak for the energy space. I can't speak for every single industry. And for that, it really, it is really focusing on STEM subjects. I think you do better if you focus on STEM subjects. You don't have to be an engineer, but some type of science, technical, and it doesn't always have to be a degree. It could be an HND from a technical college. It just be something technical allows you an easier way. Having said that, there's the other part, with the maths, which you have to look at financing and accounting. There's a lot of, employment there in terms of clean energy as well. So it's really, really varied. But I think, focusing on any of the STEM subjects will really push you forward.
Okay, Akwemi, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, please, you can ask Ms. Mugumbi question.
Oh, okay. I was hoping there was a conversation ongoing. Then I'll just listen in maybe for a few minutes, then perhaps chip in.
Hello, Akwe? Oh, I think we lost him there. Okay, so I was going to ask you again that if you look at the body language in major global, in a lot of this whole geopolitical tiki-taka happening all around the world, it does look like a lot of major countries seem to be stepping a foot back from a highly globalized world that has brought a lot of good to many developing countries and many countries in Africa. So my first question is, do you entertain any worry that, globalization that has been around for 75 years, that has lifted people out of poverty, that has given young people opportunities, limitless opportunities across the world. Do you think that it is under threat right now? And of course, the opportunities that came with globalization might suddenly be swallowed up. Do you entertain that fear?
No, I don't. I don't think globalization is as a threat. I think what is a threat is the fact that there might be less money for aid. So most governments have a percentage of their budget or the percentage of their income, being given to aid projects in Africa or Southeast Asia or countries that need it. So if they have less money, they might give less money to these projects. But that's also because, just as Africans, we also need to step up as well. No society has ever developed just on handouts and on aid and on support. So, for me, I think it's a blessing in disguise that we do actually have a very, very unique window to recover better, and to look within ourselves. Later on today, I'm actually having a webinar with indigenous African developers as well, because yeah, it's nice that we have a global clean energy space where different people and different parties from all around the world try and do it in Africa. But it's really important that while we're doing that, we also focus on our indigenous developers, and because it's harder for them. So for me, it's kind of looking inwards. I'm really excited about the localization aspects of it. Really excited that, in the supply value chain of clean energy, can we bring some of the assembly functions in Nigeria in country to service Africans, and Africa to Africa look for solutions. So I think it's way overdue. And yeah, that's really, 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 really interesting and really exciting for me.
Okay, so here's another question. It reads: the primary healthcare centers and rural schools are where clean energy might be of significant help. Is there any plan for this in the 5 million household clean energy project?
Well, it's 5 million households, so it's predominantly households. But the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria is working on a project for primary healthcare centers. I'm not sure about rural schools, but while I was working in Lagos, there are about 172 schools in Lagos that are powered by solar. And I think about 12 or 11 primary healthcare centers. So it's not something that hasn't happened. I think it's something that continuously has to happen, and people need to know more about it. But I firmly believe that that is the most sustainable way of providing power to facilities that don't need as much energy.
Okay. I think Shewon has a question. Shewon, can you hear me? Hello, Shewon. Hello. I don't think he can hear me. Okay. So here's another question that says it could be interesting to extend it could be interesting to extend clean energy to learning hubs across rural areas in Nigeria, and to see such clean energy power coding centers across rural Nigeria. I mean, is there a deliberate strategy to power rural communities in Africa with clean energy, and can that be done in a sustainable way that allows these people in rural communities use those energy effectively to lift themselves out of poverty?
I mean, for the whole of Africa, I can't speak for. I mean, we're trying to power everyone in Africa, rural, not rural. For Nigerians specifically, yes. I mean, that's the whole point of a rural electrification agency, which is headed now by a very young person who's determined to do that. And I think people forget that this is something that is a continuous thing that's going to take time. But that's the reason why, Nigeria is the only country that has got funding from the World Bank, from African Development Bank, through the Nigerian Electrification Project to try and power these places. And then even looking a bit further, some of the projects that are currently going on, but I did in my past with providing power for universities like BUK, things like that, is also sustainable. So there are a lot of things happening and have happened. It's now bringing them all together and making sure that we do get to a state of universal access by 2030. That just has to be our goal as a country and as a continent. And that's obviously key to my job on what I'm doing.
Showy, may I ask you a
Sorry, did you have
question? Can you hear
somebody?
me? Sharon, you're on. If you can hear me, you can ask the question. Hello? Hello? I think your connection has serious problems. Okay, while I'm trying to connect, I think I'd just rather ask you another question. I mean, you talk about reaching your goals at 2030. What would you like to see in 2030 that you would describe as having a successful implementation of your goals? What would exactly would you like to see for you to um, get a pat on the back to say that, okay, we've done a good job and we've ticked all the boxes?
Well, I guess, to make sure that 565 million people have access to affordable, modern, and sufficient energy. I mean, that would definitely be a tick on the box, and to also make sure that we don't go backwards. Because with population as an increase, you have the tend to sometimes even go backwards. Also important that everybody has access to clean cooking, which stops all the horrible things that's happening now with gender-based violence, be it because of clean cooking, especially for women. Just just the statistics on the fact that you can get raped going to get firewood. It's really, really disturbing. And for me as a woman and a mother, it's really, really hard. This is, so that's also important. And those two key things are important, for us to just, look at it and just make sure that as nations we're more prosperous, because we've taken this golden thread, like energy affects everything. That you can't say you want a better health sector without better energy. You can't say you want a better agricultural sector without energy. It even affects gender. If you give a woman
Yeah.
sustainable energy to be an entrepreneur, she's 59% more likely to earn more money. This is putting her on par with the male counterpart, because we've spoken a lot about young people, but we haven't spoken about how hard it is for females in African countries to do anything progressively, especially young women as well. And that's why I've made it kind of my goal in life to train and develop young women and give them the opportunities that I had. Because if someone didn't give me the opportunity, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about it. But it's extremely hard, and women do have to work 5 to 10 times harder than their male counterparts. It's unfortunately, it's just what it is, and we have to be able to change that narrative soon. But there's no magic sauce. It's just a lot of hard work that you have to put into anything that you do, especially within the continent.
Question that I asked, which was, I understand the fact that providing those millions of clean energy for rural people across Africa by 2030 will make life a lot more easy for a lot of women across these communities. But what I'd like to also ask is, what will be the economic impact of making that by 2030? What are we likely to see economically? And
I think economically, I mean, energy access has shown that every 1 million you put into clean energy, you get an additional GDP of 0.93 cents. So, hello, I'm sorry, I think I've lost you, or maybe it's me. Hello, can you hear me?
okay, I
Hello?
can hear you now. Yeah, I
Okay,
can hear
sorry,
you
I
now.
was
I
just
can
saying
hear you now. I lost
economically,
you initially.
yeah, no problem. Economically, this is the only thing though, if you put like for every $1 you put in, you get the equivalent of 0.93 cents. So in terms of additional GDP, it works out. It's also, key in terms of energy access, in terms of, job creation. For every 1,000 connections, you can actually have 25 jobs. So yeah, it's win-win if we can, we can resolve it. We're trying to build businesses and entrepreneurs, and we have to make sure we do that with sustainable energy, because there is an economic business case on why to invest in energy.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Okay, okay. I thought I lost you again for a moment. Oh, okay, okay,
No problem.
great. So I mean, okay, because since we're running out of time, I'd like you to also leave us. It's International Youth Day. Young people are seeking hope. There are a lot of hardworking young people across all of Nigeria who are losing faith in the strength of their arms and who are losing faith in their dreams. If you'd have to speak to these young people to give them hope or to encourage them to keep at what they're doing, what would you be saying to this 17 plus million young Nigerians who are struggling for opportunities?
Well, I'd like to say, please, please, please don't give up hope. Try and be creative. Try and look outside your comfort zone. Try and look at different industries and different things, and use the power that you have. Hello? power you now have of social media and all these different outlets to really really get your voice across. That, you know, the future is young people. I mean, you, even where I am in the UN, there's a youth advisory council that the voice of the young people is so so critical, and everybody's realizing it, and everybody's also realizing that they have to have a younger base working with them so they learn from them. So again, this is a hard time globally, and especially a hard time in Nigeria, but we will get through this, and but we can only get through this with young people at the helm of affairs.
Fantastic way to end the conversation. Again, let us thank you on behalf of the Avalon Daily for taking 35 minutes plus of your highly competitive time to inspire young people to action. We're really delighted that you could do this. And if you don't mind, would share your presentation to a couple of people who are asking to see the presentation, so that they can have full view of the presentation that you had earlier prepared for them.
That's fine. Please share it to everybody, and thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed being here today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ogunbi. Do have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you again.
You too. Bye bye.